Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. And I'd like to thank the organizer for giving me the opportunity to visit the building and to present here at the conference. So we'll talk about fractures in natural layer composites. We talk about natural structures. It's a very fascinating field, and we've been busy in this field for quite a few years now. We're looking at strategies, architectural strategies to achieve resilience against flaws in all kinds of natural structures. For example, mechanical interlocking is one. Soft interfaces are present sometimes in structures, or many times actually. Anisotropy is another trick. Nanoscale structures which are insensitive to flaws is another approach. This is based on work in the early 2000s by Peter Hatzel at Max Planck and Rajan Gao also, who claimed at the time that when you have a nanoscale structure, flaws have no influence on them. So, and then layered composite structures. And this talk will be mostly about layered composite structures. There were a few talks during this conference about nacre and about bone, and these are combined staggering layering structures which are present in nature. Nacre is also called mother of pearl. It has a very interesting architecture. And for example, there is dovetail platelets. Dovetail meaning that they are not completely straight, and so that locks the structure in a more firm way. Nacre has a high aragonite content, which provides high strength. Aragonite is just CaCO3. And it's a polymorph of CaCO3. And the other polymorph is calcite, but aragonite is present in nacre. There are intricate hierarchical architecture with softer interfacial materials and sophisticated interfacial structures that provides high toughness. So the first one is high strength, this one is high toughness. And the combination of organic and inorganic material provides both high strength and high toughness, which is exceptional. I mean, nature does that quite easily. Human engineers, prepare materials which have usually either high strength or high toughness, but rarely both of them. So there is a lot to learn from nature regarding this. Natural structures contain very often layered architecture, and there are many examples. One of them is called cuticle, sponge spicule, turtle shell, crabs, structures, and so on and so forth. There are many. And here we'll talk about the scorpion and the sponge. Delamination occurs, and that prevents the catastrophic fracture, which is very important, of course, for the animal or structure. How to design a layered structure to encourage crack deflection. Delamination or bifurcation is the same synonym of deflection. So how to design such a layered structure is something that we are addressing. If you have a surface defect in a layered structure, does it grow in some similar way, or does it deflect? And solutions to this problem exist for only for simple bilayer structure. Bilayer meaning 2 layers or of the same material or 2 layers of different materials. Beyond that, there is very little in the literature. And so here we will talk about what happens when where we have variable layer thickness and variable layer stiffness, meaning modulus. The connection between layering and interfacial adhesion can be roughly described as follows. We have an optimized interface in the layer structures that would deflect cracks into configuration in which the propagation is difficult, or delayed, or cracked, or stopped altogether. Okay, so that's an optimized interface. If you look at the connection between the reliability of the structure and adhesion at the interface, It goes like this. When you have high interfacial adhesion, an interface here is very strong, okay, high adhesion. And so usually a crack that propagates into a material like this, an interface like that, doesn't see the interface, just goes straight, and the material is brittle. Okay? On the other hand, when the interfacial adhesion is low, then reliability is high. Why? Because here usually there is all kinds of bifurcations, and it's called in the literature sometimes graceful fracture, and that involves crack deflection, and so there is higher reliability. Here we focus on two types: the scorpion cuticle and the sponge spicule. I'm going to skip this because it comes back. Let's talk about scorpions. Scorpions have been the topic of Israel Kellersztein's PhD thesis. Israel has been hiking, chasing scorpions at night. As you can see from those pictures, scorpions don't like to be seen. And so that at night you use UV light and you see them and catch them, whatever. And so he did that with the Nature Protection Society in Israel. And what he caught was two types. And here I'll show you some results only for one type. So he did a lot of work at night, because that's happening at night. And these are the two types, and they are very different. You can see morphologically they are very different from each other. We'll talk about the Morus palmatus. What you do is you look at the cross-section of the tarsus. The tarsus is the movable claw. One of the claws is always moving, and the other one is fixed. And so the cross-section is here and here in this case, but we will focus on this one. And there is evidence of layering. If you don't believe me, look at the next picture, look at this. The color is false color, of course, but it's there to emphasize. The cross-section has evidence of layering, cuticular layering. There are 4 layers: epicuticle at the outside, and then exocuticle in green, mesocuticle, which doesn't contain layering, contains fibers, and the endocuticle, which is very clearly layered. So we look at it with a higher scanning electron microscope resolution, and then you start seeing extraordinary things. I mean, the architecture is incredible. And so what you have are layers separated by a unidirectional sublayer, if you wish. And those structures here are the subject of what I want to talk next. There are repeating layers of so-called Bulligan units. This is a Bulligan unit, another Bulligan unit. They are stuck together, and this kind of structure architecture has been discovered by Yves Bulligan in the 1960s. He's a biologist, and they consist of arrays of unidirectional chitin fibril-based protein lamellae that follow a twisted plywood structure. Twisted plywood means the structure goes like this. Okay, every one of those is a twisted plywood. Okay, and each layer is rotated by a small angle with respect to the next layer. So this is a drawing that Israel made. You have layers. This layer is between 3 and 8 micron. The interlayer is between 1.5 and 2 micron. And then you have between the Bulligans, you have intralayers, which are sub-micron nanometer. Every blue part here, it's called blue, meaning Bulligan laminate unit. That's one unit, the blue. And the lamellae are, the Bulligan unit consists of lamellae, which are also sub-micron. So that gives you an idea of the architecture. And the nice thing, the interesting thing, is that it's a combination of off-axis twist, like this, and a tilt, which was unexpected. And it happens only, we see this only in scorpion cuticle. The off-axis twist is, as I said, just a twist. The tilt is a change in a structure like this, and the combination of both gives you this. And I can Okay, it's different from what people have seen before, but that's not interesting here. So look at how it builds artificially, so that we understand a little bit how it looks like. So it goes up, and then around an off-center axis, not the center axis, but an off-center axis, there is twist, and then at some point there is also tilt, which is doing something like this. It's an incredible architecture, and that's what we see. Wait, yeah. Okay. And so what you do then, for those of you who know a little bit about composite materials, is laminate analysis to study mechanical properties of composites, but we have to account for tilt. It's not in there. So this is the relationship between forces and moments and strains and curvature with the stiffness. So this is stress strain, basically. So, and so the stiffness matrix is A, B, B, D, which has to be modified to account for tilt. And so this is one thing that we did, and these are the equations. Doesn't matter right now, just showing you to show off. But really, this is the modification that has to be brought to the classic laminate analysis, so that you can actually calculate the way the moduli works. Let's talk about fracture cracks, because this is really fascinating. There are what I call hierarchical interfaces as fracture propagation traps or sinks. It goes like this. You see there are all kinds of things in there. Using the electron microscope, you search for stress dissipation, crack arrest, and things that contribute to high toughness in this material. And so there are different interfacial failure types, but not only interfacial. So you have the white arrows here, which describe interlaminar fractures within each blue, within the grooves. That's a nanoscale interfacial fracture. In red, you have intra-layer, so between those polygons, between the blues, at the micro scale. Then you have in blue, you have fracture here at the interlayer, between the layers, this way, at the micro scale also. And then you have something else also in yellow here, which are not interfacial cracks. They are just Griffith cracks, because they go across. They don't care about any direction in there. They just go straight out to themselves in whatever direction. And so that's an internal crack within the bridge, which are not interfacial. The observations is that they play the role of fracture traps, sinks, from the multi-layer structure, and they dissipate energy, and they contribute to crack arrest. It's like, they are sacrificed. It break, and the crack stops, basically. They absorb energy, these cracks, micro cracks, nano cracks, absorb energy, and they stop the general crack, which contributes to the safety of this structure. So I call them a hierarchical failure, because they are potential source of energy dissipation, stress relaxation, and they contribute to structural reliability. Modeling is in progress. Okay, a lot of this is work in progress. And so this is a picture of the cross-section of the cuticle of this scorpion. And what you see is that there are surface cracks, and there are also delamination cracks all over. And that's called the Cook-Gordon mechanism, which is well known in the literature on composites. And the simplest case, as I said before, is a bilayer structure. It goes like this. You have a propagating crack in the first layer. There is an interface, and now everything depends on the interface. If the interface is strong, it goes through. Doesn't care about the crack, doesn't care about the interface. If the interface is weak, low adhesion, then the crack deflects. And in many cases, you have the Cook-Gordon mechanism, in which the interface feels the presence of a incoming crack and breaks. It splits. That's called the Cook-Gordon mechanism. It's very old, and you see it all over the places in the scorpion. It's well studied. Kendall in the 1970s, and Hay Hutchins, and so on and so forth. There are plenty of people who have done this analysis, and this is from Kendall, Original Crossing Royal Society of London. Kendall is incredible. frankly, even if you read it today, I mean, it's really fascinating. So what we do, and that's current work, which is in progress also, and it's a difficult problem, we generalize Kendall for multi-material, multi-layer graded structure. So it's not bimatter, it's not bilayer, and it's graded structure, which is not the case in Kendall. Graded means you have a changing thickness and you have a changing modules. And this is Israel Greenfeld, who is doing these calculations, and this is in progress. Now the other structure is sponge. The spicule of sponge. A sponge lives, it's an animal, believe it or not. It's an animal that lives at the bottom of the ocean. And there was also a lecture about sponge 2 days ago, I think. What we are interested in is these spicules. Why do they exist? Because they stick the sponge at the bottom of the ocean. It's like an anchor. And so what we have is the structure of those spicules. This is a cross section. So you see it's clearly layered. We call it, this is the M-tuning, monoharpies tuning sponge. And these are silica layers, and in between there is a protein layer, okay, which is very different structurally. And this is an incredible material. It's silica, it's glass, window glass. Window glass is here. This material is here. So that's the strength compared to this strength, and that's the fracture energy, or fracture toughness if you wish, compared to this fracture toughness. Simply because it's layered and it has this protein in the interfaces. Silica being, that's the protein. That's another picture that shows you the role of the interfaces. You see it's crack deflection all over the places with this. The layers, if you look carefully, the layers start at a certain thickness and then decrease. Okay, that's the grading in thickness. And this grading occurs in the scorpion, and it occurs also in the layers, the spicule. Okay, and these are data that we took, that Jim Weaver took. These are data that we took. The red one refers to the interface here. It's less important, but the blue one refers to the layer thickness, the scorpion thickness. So it's the same principle. We have something happening. Why the decrease? That's interesting because the stress needed to cause crack in individual layer is proportional to 1 over the square root of G. The thinnest layers has the highest strength. That's why it's there at the outside, and they limit the depth of straight crack penetration into the structural material. Okay? The sponge spicule, the thinnest layer is at the outer surface. Under bending, the stress is the highest and tensile in nature. In scorpion, it's the opposite. Bio-inspired engineering is the ongoing, it's inspiration from all what I showed you. There is greater layer stiffness and thickness in engineering structure could be tuned. What we try to do is to have a crack into a structure which is layered, variable modulus constant thickness, or variable thickness and constant modulus. It's a general case. Just one result to show you that we are indeed working on this. So that's for the scorpion cuticle-like model, crack deflection here. I will not go into the details, of course, but we can control, by calculation, we can control what happens really in structures that look like either scorpion or spicule, and we can determine if it's going to deflect or not going to deflect, depending on the data. So the lessons are that we have grading, we have no modulus grading in a simpler layer structure, and we are searching for optimization. These are the papers that we've published over the last 3, 4, 5 years. That's my group at the Weizmann Institute. That was 2 years ago. And just one sentence. I like Fellini very much, and I discovered that Fellini is here. He was born here and he's buried here. And I thought I would write this. Work is a protective canopy from dark clouds about the flying of time. Creativity generates energy. Energy stimulates the feeling of life. This is true of science as well. If this is too serious, this is another thing that Fellini wrote. Life is a combination of magic and pasta. Thank you.